Lewis in the Black Horse Pub. Good morning. Welcome to Mirador Television. In the studio, that is the pub this morning, there is only us two chickens. One is Ada, who's keeping the place absolutely spotless, and me, who's having trouble opening his mouth this morning. Oh, you may say, what a joy, what a pleasure. We like to look at him when he's not standing off, spouting forth. Never mind. The day will come when it'll be somebody else. Okay. First of all, I cut my head off. It's cold outside. Again. This morning it started off at -5. What it is now is -4. That's as cold as it's been all week. However, it's cloudless. There's not a cloud in the sky, but that means there's no cloud cover. So the heat is escaping. It doesn't matter how sunny it is, it's going to stay cold. It's the top temperature will be 3 degrees, and it's not going to hit that until noon, 1 o'clock, in fact. It's going to stay quite cold this morning, climbing up from -5 to only -3 at 9 o'clock, freezing at 11 before nudging ahead to 2-3 at 1 o'clock. Oh dear, what a cold day. Although, a lot of us like a cold day once in a while. It makes it rather pleasant to be out. I have to say, though, that on the scooter this morning, as my fingers damn near dropped off, the big problem is, of course, I can't reach the brake if my fingers drop off. Heaven only knows what chaos that might create. Anyway, the weather today, sunny and a breeze. -5, rising to 3. And if you're sticking your nose out right now, it is -4. Wow, that is as cold as it's been. News headlines are pretty cold too. Yeah, I'm afraid they are. Incidentally, let us tell you that the folk at YouTube have had second thoughts, and we are actually back on YouTube. I think so too. They were squelching freedom of speech. It wasn't as if we'd done anything terribly naughty, just expressed our opinions, that's all. Still, there we are. Glad to be back, nonetheless, simply because it is another outlet. But the other folk at Facebook stood by us, although yesterday I got a notice, and perhaps it's a scam. I got a notice that said that they were upset with us for sending naughty stuff across Facebook. But they said specifically that we sent it to John Prideaux, artificial intelligence expert, who was on yesterday, and John most certainly didn't receive it, and I couldn't see it. All we've got is the alert. I rather think that it's a scam because A, we don't send that sort of stuff, and B, we couldn't see it. We couldn't see what the hell they were on about. So we assume that it's somebody else being naughty. They do. I don't know why. I suppose they just trawl the web, and they see us sounding off and say, right, we'll teach them. Oh, there, you see, Ada's got this place. She's just tickety-boo, absolutely tickety-boo. Walk in here in the morning, and it is spotless, immaculate, and so is she. And let me tell you something about Ada. She phones her family to wake them up. Get out of bed, she says. But then she says, I love you. And that's absolutely wonderful. In my book, a lady who phones her family first thing in the morning and says, I love you, has got to be very special. In fact, that's the sort of lady that should start to be made a dame instead of some of the, never mind, the bankers, let's say, that are. But then the system doesn't recognize decent people. It recognizes sharks. And I'm all for an honest system that works. And actually 50% of our structure, governmental structure, doesn't work. And that's really what needs taking a look at. They can give it to me. I'll head a royal commission looking into it. Oh yeah, they'd fire me off it within 5 minutes. Oh dear. Yes, indeed. Okay, let's not pee around. Let us go to the headlines and yes, I think we can see who we're talking about right now. There we go. Mr. Sunak, Rishi Sunak. And The Guardian is the first paper up. Oh, thank you, Ada.
Have you eaten?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. See, they look after me, and it's absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. I have to say to you that there is nobody on this team that is under 50. Not by choice, just the way it's happened. And I this morning, I think the over 50s still do things for the joy of doing them, and because they're making a contribution to their community. The under 50s want to know what's in it for them first. And it's sad, because we need people who are prepared to make a contribution to our community. Anyway, that's another day, another rant. The Guardian. Sunak's Rwanda bill survives as the Tory revolt melts away. For now, says The Guardian. A number of Thursday's papers report on the government's success in seeing off a revolt by Tory MPs who wanted to see the Rwanda bill strengthened. The Guardian says the rebels balked at further undermining Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's authority and concluded that defeating the bill by voting with Labour, who oppose it altogether, could risk collapsing the government. So they've come to the aid of the party. They don't think any differently, but they vote differently. The Times. Rwanda revolt withers away. So those of you who heard it last night, I didn't hear about it. That's is picture of King Charles and of the Duchess Kate on the front of the Times. So is the King will go to hospital next week for treatment for the print is very tiny. That's why I'm having difficulty. A benign prostate. With the Princess of Wales in sorry, can't read it. Too tiny. Hopefully I can come back to that. I won't leave you hanging. The Times says the revolt withered away and that only 11 Tory rebels ultimately opposed the legislation, well short of required to defeat it. The paper adds, though, that a YouGov survey has found that support for the Conservatives has fallen to 20%, a low not seen since the economic turmoil triggered by former Prime Minister Liz Truss's mini-budget. Aha. Aha. There's Rishi in all his splendor. Are you away?
Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay. Bye, Ada. Here you are. We like to keep our non-broadcast staff to the forefront because they do such a fantastic job. They're the unsung heroes. Ada particularly gets up at the crack of dawn to come in here and make sure everything's okay for us. And she is very pleasant with it too. The Eye revealed new post office IT scandal claims as convicted postmasters plead for help. So, a change of tack here. She's into the post office. So the Eye says it ain't over yet. Another IT system used by the post office was flawed and led to wrongful convictions before the Horizon scandal. So says the Eye. The paper says Steve Marston, a former sub-postmaster, was convicted of fraud and false accounting in 1998 after adopting a system called Capture and suffering an apparent £79,000 shortfall at his post office. Labour MP Kevin Jones, who has campaigned for justice for those affected by the Horizon scandal, tells the paper he is in touch with 5 or 6 potential victims and thinks there could be more. Oh dear, this one's going to rumble on, isn't it? It's going to rumble on. The Sun. Aha! Now, the bit I couldn't read in small print is splattered across the front page of the Sun. 2 health shocks, it says. Royals rocked by Kate Op. She's in hospital 2 weeks. No duties for 3 months. And a prostate op for the king. The Sun leads, well, let's see what we can. Yeah. There we are. The Sun leads with what it describes as a double health blow for the royal family. Kensington Palace announced yesterday that the Princess of Wales was recovering in hospital after undergoing abdominal surgery. Just hours later, Buckingham Palace said the king was to have a procedure to address a benign enlarged prostate. Well, I was right on that. The Sun says the princess will remain in hospital for 10 to 14 days and could then require 3 months of rest before returning to royal duties. Wow. The Metro headlines the same story. Kate and Charles in hospital. Royals double health shock. The Princess of Wales 14 days, and the king is to have op stay after stomach surgery on enlarged prostate. Aides have not disclosed the princess's illness, but have said it is not cancer-related, and the procedure was a success. The Metro reports that the king was said to be keen to reveal his own diagnosis to encourage other men to get any symptoms checked. Well, there you go. The Star. Instead of shopping us with little green men or flies that are so huge that they'll eat us, also goes with Kate's op. Princess in hospital for up to 14 days after tummy surgery. Wills to stay at her side until she returns to work at Easter. And the king to have prostate done next week. Wow. I turn up for the books when the Star gets serious. The Daily Star says Prince William will stay at the princess's side until she returns to work at Easter. The paper also reports that the king is due to have his operation next week. The Mirror stays with the royal theme. Wills cancels all engagements as the princess has surgery, and Charles is also set for an operation. I'll be there for Kate, he is quoted as saying. In the Mirror. The the princess cancelled all engagements while the princess recovers. A source tells the paper that his role is now to be there for her. Right? That's the human touch. The Express, normally a supportive paper of the government, has two banners. Rishi wins the day as the rebellion melts away. Oh gosh, that passed, doesn't it? Alongside that is a picture of Esther Ransom. I might not live long enough to see assisted dying debate. She, of course, is supporting the idea of you can, well, let's put it bluntly, top yourself if you're dying and in pain and want to end it all. But the headline is Kate doing well after surgery, but recovery to take weeks. So that's very much a theme of the papers today, is the royal illness. The Daily Express says the princess is doing well following her surgery. The Daily Mail, let's pray that they're both okay. Close-up pictures of the royal pair. Kate to spend up to 2 weeks in hospital and won't return to public life until Easter after abdominal surgery. And the king will undergo corrective procedure on enlarged prostate as the monarch cancels all engagements. The king and the princess of Wales are both having serious medical treatment. It emerged yesterday. Kate is in hospital after abdominal surgery, and Charles, who is now 75, was diagnosed yesterday with an enlarged prostate and is not set for an operation next week. The princess underwent her planned procedure on Tuesday at the London Clinic in Marylebone. Details of the condition have not been released, but she will remain in the private hospital for about 2 weeks before a lengthy period of recovery. Kate has cancelled her planned engagements and let's pray they're both okay, says the Mail. The paper says the king has also cancelled his engagements ahead of his procedure. The Daily Telegraph goes with royals. Hospital surgery for king and princess. The Telegraph reports that the timing of the two announcements was coincidental. and the concerns have been raised about the challenge posed to the royal family of being without a number of its most senior members at the same time. The Financial Times. It changes its emphasis to the economy, as indeed it often does, because it is a business paper. But its headline is as a global sell-off as the UK and Eurozone warning signs dash rate cut hopes. The FT reports that there was a worldwide sell-off of stocks and bonds on Wednesday, amid expectations that interest rates will stay high for longer than previously thought. The paper says markets had been pricing in rate cuts. Oh, right. So had been pricing in rate cuts as soon as the spring. But that Christine Lagarde, president of the European Central Bank, has signaled that they will not fall as soon as many had hoped. The sell-off also followed new data showing that UK inflation has risen for the first time in 10 months. Ms. Lagarde is quoted as saying, short of another major shock, we have reached a peak in interest rates, that we have to stay restrictive for as long as necessary. Well, the headlines are split three ways. One, Rishi Sunak's survival. Two, Kate and Charles, or the king and the princess, as we should rightly call them, at least on the first occasion, not being well. And thirdly, the economic recovery is stuttering. What do they mean? Well, a lot of people shrug off and say, nothing to do with me, Gov. You know, I can't change things. Well, yes and no. I think we have to take our environment and our world generally in toto. We can't cherry pick. We can't say, oh, well, we're concerned about this and not about that. Let's look at these headlines this morning, these front pages. First of all, the government has been stuttering. And another setback could well have triggered a crisis of confidence. And that could have meant the resignation of yet another prime minister, the fall of yet another government, and all the uncertainty that that brings. And that does not help us. It casts doubt on leadership. It creates nervousness in international markets. And generally speaking, the the backlash makes life very difficult. The royals. Well, there'll be some people say, oh, blah, 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 blah. Charles is our head of state. And while the gossip mongers go, blah, 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 those people who take a serious view of where the country is heading, what its stability is, what its state is in the world, recognize very clearly our form of government is so successful, and it is, despite the machinations of Westminster. We are a very stable society. And it's down to the fact that we have a head of state who doesn't change every 5 minutes, who isn't subject to bribery and corruption. And who contributes to our national status and standing in the world. And when they're ill, both of them, as they put it, two senior royals, we need to be concerned. We need to be concerned. Thirdly, with inflation, a faltering economy, rise in interest rates, we have been through a rocky time. And it looked as if the program of austerity that the government imposed had worked. Now, not all to do with us. And I'm sure a lot to do with the Middle East and the fears about where that's heading. And we had David Lennon on yesterday, an expert in Middle East affairs, who confirmed it's a very tenuous situation there. Is markets are panicked, inflation is back on the agenda, interest rates are to stay high, and that is not good news for economic recovery. So this morning, we have three very important stories, three very important headlines. And I jokingly, and yet it is a serious indicator, said even the Daily Star, who gives us wonderful chuckles in the morning, didn't chuckle this morning. It paid attention to the headlines. And when it does that, then we really have to start to take what's happening in our world seriously. And so we have three major stories. all of whom are worthy of your attention. Okay, let's take another look at the weather. No, the temperature is not rising very quickly today. It is presently -4 degrees centigrade. The forecast was only for -3, so it's a degree below. And it's not going to go much above 2. Now it's forecast. And even then, that isn't until lunchtime. Clear day, lovely day. The sun is in the heavens, and all is well with the world. Well, the sun is in the heavens, but all is not well with the world. You name it, there's a crisis. Anyway, the main caution with the weather is don't expect any rain. 0% chance of rain today, but very cold. So wrap up. If you're going out into the street, be prepared. It's only a mild breeze, a gentle breeze, but the chill factor, as I keep saying, is important. And if there's any breeze at all, it may be -1 or it might be 1 or 2. But the chill factor, in other words, the breeze, can make it feel a lot colder. So be ready. Now, as you can tell, I'm having a chocolate bar and I'm having a coffee, and I've got a great big glass of water there because my backroom staff are a bit worried I'm not treating myself well in the scheme of things. And that I need to be it. It's very nice, but come what may, it's important that we pass on the information. Okay, there are only about 25 million of you watching us. we wish. There are only, I don't know, it is difficult to assess. But I did say to you earlier, we're back on YouTube, having been dumped for a little while. And when we pointed out that they were being anti-democratic because they didn't like a couple of opinions that we expressed, they put us back up. So let's hope that we stay there. And yet, YouTube, that everybody coins, oh, are you on YouTube? It's only the third largest social media platform of the lot. And while it says that it has an awful lot of people going viral, making money, and so on and so forth, the videos are uploaded to YouTube every minute. Every minute means that you've really got to be quite fantastic to stand out from the crowd. So YouTube isn't all that it's cracked up to be unless you're lucky. Damn lucky. Okay, let's let me just catch my breath. Let's go down to my favorite park. Can't go down to my favorite park if we go that way. My finger is slipping all over the place this morning. It always does, doesn't it? But they keep on telling you as if it would be different if it didn't. Mirror is a different type of television. You don't see the smooth approach that you get on the major channels or even on some of the channels. But you get the goods and you get a bit of a giggle. And you're able to say, look at that. That is daft as we are. Let's go to the park. Now, we've got an awful lot of new people in Lewis. The population is constantly turning over. So let me just, remind people who've been here for a while and inform people who are new to the town that that park is very important. And when you go into it, you will find scattered around the grounds marvelous architectural examples of gates, walls, windows, all from the priory, which was built in 1069, or at least it was started in 1069. And I go down there regularly, or I did when I was Kids Still Walk. And I would do that to the foundations. Built in 1069, they were remarkable workmanship. It was built at the behest of Gundrada, who was the first lady of Lewis. Her husband, William de Varenne, had fought shoulder to shoulder conqueror Hastings, or battle, whichever you prefer. And despite his reluctance, she was a relative, had charmed him into allowing her to build this Cluniac Priory, which flourished until 1540 or thereabouts, and the dissolution of the monasteries. But in that park that we just looked at are some fine examples of the stone masonry of the time. However, it's there because it was purloined by William Newton, a Cromwellian, a Republican, a Puritan, who took a lot of the fine marble, beautiful architecture. When the priory was pulled down, by Thomas Cromwell, and built this manor house, which stands intact in all its finery today. The only thing that's altered is that the grounds are much less extensive than they were. But they are still beautiful. And still reflect the great workmanship that medieval times brought to our part of the world. It also was the target for the Royalists in the English Civil War in the late 1500s, who, in order to win overall, needed to get a foothold in East Sussex. They were very well entrenched in West Sussex, and they set out to attack Southampton Grange, because it was the heart of Cromwellian resistance, if you like. And then you needed to capture it. Well, they set out all right, but they didn't get any further than Haywards Heath. And the Battle of Muster Green took place, with a force from Lewis making sure that the Royalists were driven back. It is not recorded how many Cromwellians, in other words, Louisians, fell at the battle, but it is recorded that 200 Royalists died before they eventually took flight. Over the centuries, the Prince Regent stayed there. And there is some suggestion he used it, obviously, at the behest of the Newtons, who lived in it as a family for well over 200 years. took some of his mistresses there, including Lady Fitzherbert, who some said he secretly married. And indeed, the Prince Regent is said to have married a couple of people. And each time, his father, George III, annulled the marriage, because in those days, the Prince Regent could not marry without the permission of his father, and he didn't have it. All this happening under our very noses down in Southover. Now, where are we? We're in the Black Horse Inn. The Black Horse, the top end of the high street. How far away are we? Oh, half a mile perhaps from where all this took place, which is a very, very key part of the history of this town. You can't trip over yourself in this town without history, but this is a specific piece of history which is there for us to see. To touch and tell, as it were. And if you haven't been down to that park, if for no other reason, you go down and get the sense of history that it exudes. But you also might like to go down for a bit of peace and quiet. Because right in the center is a Knots garden. A Knots garden is one that is symmetrical. It's laid out in a pattern. And a very pretty little garden it is. It's walled. It's beautifully maintained. The wall keeps the chill away, the wind. So settling down there, do a little bit of work or have a secret nap is a very pleasant occasion. When I could walk, I used it as my summer office. A very, very pleasant place it is to be. Well, now, before we take our first break, because it is now 8:54, I'm going to play you that again, just so that you can see what I've been talking about and what you've been missing. Incidentally, That helmet, which is a sculpture in bronze, sits in the Priory grounds, not in Southaven grounds, in the Priory grounds. It commemorates an equally as important occasion in Lewis in 1264, and that was the Battle of Lewis. Some of you may have seen the movie Robin Hood with Russell Crowe, and that broadly details the time and how Robin Hood, mythically of course, helped King John defeat attempts by Norman lords to wrest the crown of England from him. William Marshall, who features prominently in the film, was a truly historical character. And indeed, King John was forced to sign the Magna Carta, giving up certain rights, paring back the authority of the monarchy, which he didn't keep to. And so, about 50 years later, Henry III was being just as profligate, throwing great parties at the expense of the barons, who eventually said, "Oi, we want to say in how you're spending our money." And under the leadership of William de Montfort, rebelled. Enough is enough. And they took the king to task. In fact, what they did was they created a battle, the Battle of Lewis in 1264, which was all about the authority of the king and the divine right of kings. I can do exactly what I want because I'm here and put here by God. And that battle ended the divine right of kings, in totality anyway, forever. And a government was formed in Westminster, and it is considered to be the real spark of democracy in England. Let me just play you that one again. So you see, the things that happen today are reflected in a history that is right at our doorstep. And I don't think we should forget that. No. But it's 9 o'clock now. John Henty will be along in about an hour's time. But before I take our little break, what I'd like to tell you is I am sitting in a pub that does a magnificent Sunday lunch. Now, its menu during the week is pretty damn good too. But Sunday lunch is just something that's absolutely special. Absolutely special. I come here every Sunday. I come here, even though this is my workplace. It doesn't bother me one little bit coming into work to have my Sunday lunch. And a very good Sunday lunch it is. And our Chief of Staff, Declan, is nearly always here. And it's a very, very pleasant occasion with the real buzz of a Sunday pub and Sunday lunch. I would urge you to come. Now, I don't have the details yet. So, Declan holds a very, very good pub quiz. And somewhere towards the beginning of February, he's going to have one on a Sunday. He's not going to stop those of us who are more interested in the Sunday lunch than the quiz from enjoying ourselves. So Sunday lunch on that day will be on from midday to 5 o'clock. Then the ordinary menu will kick in as they prepare for and undertake the quiz. Now, I said to Declan, leave the details for me, and I will let everybody know when this quiz is. And he didn't. It was very unlike him because he's normally very thorough. But he'll be back tomorrow, and I shall get the details from him, and I'll let you know when that quiz is. But it's a very, very good night out, and good entertainment, and good food. So remember, the Black Horse pub lunches, Sunday roast quiz once every 6 weeks or so. Do join me. You may not remember my face, but you'll remember the blue hat, which never leaves my head. Ah, dear. No, it doesn't. Okay, we've been for this first break an egg. We'll take a break. We'll come back, and then eventually we'll be joined by John Henty with his usual bag of tricks. And give me a moment, and we'll say toodle pip, just for a little while. Just for a little while. Keith, just for a little while. From Lewis in the Black Horse Pub.